at the hospital, because they couldn't find what was wrong with me, they mainly thought I was crazy. I couldn't drive my son to school. I couldn't drive at all, and I was at that point I wasn't even bathing very. Bathing was very difficult. I wasn't doing anything. So I had tachycardia, and it would strike unexpectedly. And I remember being so tired it physically hurt. And he'd be like, "Mom, how long till you think you're going to get better?" And I would say, well. But I didn't believe I was going to get better. I was just humoring him, really. Four years later, in March, when the headaches went away, I realized I was feeling quite a bit better. And then it was just this very gradual improvement. They were really excited. "Do you really think you should go to this party?" I remember going to the grocery store for the first time and getting to the checkout and feeling fine. I just felt fine. I was totally normal. And I was the one doing all the cooking for everyone, and I was fine. And we got home, and I was actually more energetic than anybody else. There's a mountain, and it's about a mile up and down. Well, a mile up and a mile down. And I started hiking that every day. If I run for 15 minutes, I have energy for the rest of the day. I'm really glad I didn't give up. If I had given up, I'd still be sick.
Well, as always, this is the favorite part of my week, and that is when I get to connect with someone to record a recovery interview. And today I am speaking with Molly from Massachusetts in the United States. I've known Molly long enough now to be able to say Massachusetts, so that is fantastic.
Is it hard to say?
Well, when you're not used to it as an Aussie, I did struggle with that for a little while.
I never thought of that. I grew up in New England, so...
So, welcome to your recovery interview. Molly actually recovered using my ANS Rewire program. So just a little disclaimer in the beginning. But we're going to start first of all talking to Molly about when she first became ill. How long ago was that, Molly?
It was 5 years ago, March, so almost 5.5 years ago. I was going back over, preparing for this interview, I was going back over some notes I had for my medical visits, and I was surprised to remember how gradually it started. I hadn't remembered that.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. So, what happened initially? How did it start gradually? Tell me about it.
Well, I was doing. I'm a psychotherapist, and we had a sort of a specific type of therapy we were doing that's based on mindfulness. And so in our meetings, every week we'd have a supervision meeting to learn this type of therapy. And we would do meditation, which is a lot focusing on your breathing. And I thought my breaths felt uncomfortable and tight and constricted. It felt funny. It didn't feel right. And that was just very gradually got worse over, I would say, a month before I really got sick. And I was sitting on the couch and I started having chest pains. And I had called the doctor, and I was going, my breathlessness was getting worse. They call it dyspnea, feeling like you can't breathe. And I had been to the doctor about it. It was on my third doctor's visit that I was hospitalized, actually. And the first day I stayed home from work because I was so breathless, and talking was a part of my profession, so I didn't feel like I could do it because when I talked, I'd get so dizzy and out of breath. And I thought since I was home, I would do some chores around the house, and I found that just trying to put the laundry away, I got so dizzy I couldn't stand up, and that's when I first knew something was really wrong. So that was within a few weeks of my first symptoms.
I mean, it must have been obviously very scary. These are very serious symptoms, and what were the doctors saying, what they thought was wrong?
Because it was cardiac related, I went into the cardiac unit at the hospital, and even after I was released from the hospital and they weren't sure what was wrong with me. People thought it was myocarditis for quite a while, which was quite scary because that's with myocarditis, people die in their sleep a lot, which was terrifying. So I went to sleep. I thought I might die.
Yeah, that's
so
very upsetting and stressful, obviously. Yeah, scary.
I think it was from when I first got sick, the first symptoms to when that was ruled out. I think might have even been a couple of months before that was ruled out.
Right.
So,
and then what did they say?
Well, in the at the hospital, because they couldn't find what was wrong with me, they mainly thought I was crazy.
Right, so you didn't get it's all in your head after all. I was saying,
yeah,
with all these real measurable symptoms, I thought you would have avoided that.
Yeah, no, and they, they think they're being sly, but I'm a therapist, so they're like, what? So how have you been feeling lately? Have you been depressed? And I'm like, I understand where you're going with this, but this is something crazy is happening to my body, like. And when I was admitted to the hospital a few weeks after my first symptoms, and I crashed really fast. Like I wasn't able to walk to my doctor's office by myself to go to see him when he was going to admit me. And after a day or two in the hospital, I couldn't walk to the bathroom without falling over. I was really dizzy and really sick. And then I was able, the morning they admitted me, they released me, I was actually able to stand. Not well. I used to sing what is that? The Daring Young Man. It's like I was doing the tightrope walk, but I could do it. When I would walk across the room. But I could walk again without a walker. And I went home and went to a natural clinic. And they weren't sure what was wrong with me. Obviously, a lot of people, because I'm from New England, a lot of people suspected it was Lyme disease, so we barked up that tree for a while. There was a question of maybe mold toxicity or something like that. I went to the infectious disease specialist in Boston. They did a bunch of tests. I did 2 rounds of antibiotics for Lyme in case it was Lyme. And they finally diagnosed me with, my behest, I have to say, with chronic fatigue, because I needed a diagnosis after a few months. I asked if they would give me a diagnosis, and we went through the symptoms, and they thought it was an accurate diagnosis. I did an IV vitamin B.
Right.
Intense IV antibiotics, intense IV vitamins for a while, and they helped at first. And then I actually started to feel ill after them, feel worse, like it was for my system, and so I stopped doing those. At that point, I couldn't drive. I couldn't drive my son to school. I couldn't drive at all, and at that point I wasn't even bathing bathing was very difficult. I wasn't doing anything. The first few months I was just lying on the couch and doing nothing. And my son was 5 years old.
And this 5 years old, was he?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And this is about 3 months into the illness?
Yeah. So for the first few months, yeah. Once I got really sick, like after the first month, I got really sick, and then for several more months after that, I was completely incapacitated. I couldn't do anything. And then I got a little improvement from there, where I got my dizziness under control enough so that I could drive, which seemed to just happen naturally.
Yeah.
Maybe resting, probably. And I started managing my energy.
Yes.
So I basically rest all day so I could pick up my son from school.
Fair enough. So 3 months in, you found a way to manage your lifestyle of basically resting and using whatever your energy you have to do some of the basic things of looking after your son, like picking him up from school. What happens from here on in? I mean, do you have the fatigue, you have the dizziness, do you still have the cardiac symptoms? Do you have pain, or do you have the tachycardia?
I had tachycardia, and it would strike unexpectedly. It was really, and it was worse if it struck at night, because then I couldn't sleep. because who can sleep when their heart rate is 130? It's not conducive to rest. Yeah, I had tachycardia, and I had chest pains, and I had the dyspnea. The dyspnea got better, but it would strike. It would just randomly strike. So all of a sudden, like, I'd have chest pain and dyspnea. And I took a muscle relaxant for the chest pain, and it was so incapacitating that I thought, what's the point of that? Because the only reason I wanted to get rid of the chest pain was because it was hard to cook dinner or stand up or do anything when I had chest pain, and then the muscle relaxant was way worse. I was a vegetable. So I just lived with that.
Okay, and the breathing difficulties were also very persistent.
And do you want me to say all my other symptoms?
Yeah, by all means, share your symptoms.
Let's see. So I felt like I had the flu. In the beginning, I felt like I had the flu all the time, and then it started coming and going. But usually, like, at least once a day, I would feel like I had the flu. But sometimes I feel like I had the flu for a week or, several weeks without really a break. And I was exhausted. Sometimes I'd wake up exhausted, and I would stay exhausted all day. Sometimes I would perk up in the morning. I was always a mess in the afternoon. That was, the whole afternoon. I couldn't ever plan to do anything. And sometimes I'd perk up again in the evening, but sometimes it'd just be the whole day. And I remember being so tired it physically hurt. Did you ever get that? Like, it physically hurt how tired I was. And I always describe it to people like it's that afternoon crash you have after lunch, but it's like 100 times that feeling. And I would get confused, disoriented. I couldn't think. I have really bad brain fog. I'm just looking at my notes. And then the dizziness and the wooziness. And the brain fog was really bad. I couldn't do anything that required mental effort except in the morning. If I was having a good morning, I could pay bills or do stuff. I had my laptop, so I'd lie on the couch all day. I was always on the couch. I called myself a horizontal girl.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah.
I got a lot done from the couch.
Your little office.
And I had low blood. I think I had POTS. The doctor said I didn't have POTS because he did one test and I didn't have a POTS reaction that time. But I thought I had POTS because when I would stand up, I would sometimes fall, tip over. I was so dizzy.
Right. So that's a really interesting thing. I mean, again, in medicine, I guess we would like to have evidence which makes sense. But I think the thing with CFS or POTS, whatever name you want to give it, is that nothing is the same over time. It's very variable. The same with blood sugar tests and all this kind of thing. And I mean, here you are. You've got all the POTS symptoms. You've got the tachycardia. You've got the problems, of getting dizzy when you rise, and the blood pressure issues, the whole thing. And you have it persistently. You have it virtually all the time, right? Yeah. And the only time you don't...
especially when I had been to that neurologist. At the point I was seeing that neurologist, I think I wasn't even driving. I was so dizzy. So.
Yeah. And the only time you don't have it is when you got enough nervous energy and you're on that tilt table and you come up, and so you don't get the diagnosis. And it just doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense to me, If you're reporting this every day, and it just doesn't happen that one time on the tilt table, it doesn't mean it's not there, does it?
That's right. This other neurologist I saw made me so anxious because he had been they do very painful nerve tests. He made me so anxious that my blood pressure was actually high, and my blood pressure was consistently like 90/70, 80/60, lower, down to 50. But this person made me so anxious that I actually had like 130 blood pressure because he was so stressful. Because I could see he didn't believe I was really sick, and I had to spend an hour with him. And sitting in the chair at doctor's appointments, as you probably know, was so difficult because sitting up in a chair was very challenging for me, from physically exhausting, and it was just a nightmare. So I had, I started getting migraines. I got my first migraine in the hospital, and also just headaches, as well as migraines, night sweats, hot and cold, and hot flashes. That my doctor said it's not a hot flash if it lasts an hour. That's not a flash.
Right.
Yeah, and really bad hot and cold sensitivity, so I'd be always overheated or freezing. Never really comfortable. I used to change my shirt like sometimes 3 or 4 times a day. because I would just sweat and sweat. I have low-grade fevers, just like 99, 100 degrees. Sore throats, uh, pins and needles in my arms and legs, and eye irritation, like my eyes felt grainy. They hurt. I had sensitivity to light and sound, so I was constantly turning off lights, or people would have to be quiet. My husband couldn't listen to any music in the car. I'd get completely overwhelmed. And then I had a lot of abdominal symptoms. I had a lot of abdominal pain and nausea, especially in the beginning. That got better, actually. That was a symptom that I think almost completely went away. But in the beginning, that was a big symptom. They also thought I might have a simmering appendix or something they called it,
Right.
because I had so much abdominal pain.
Right.
I think that's all of them. Let's see.
It's enough, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's enough.
It was a lot.
How did you feel telling did you have a nice doctor, like a GP that you could go to with this?
He was lovely. He was the one who gave me a diagnosis so I could go on Social Security. And he was really sweet, but he was basically said, I can't help you. I don't have any idea how to help you.
So he knew enough to diagnose it, but just couldn't treat it.
Yeah, because he's a smart guy, so he looked at the symptoms in the book, and he could see that I had, well more than enough of them. Yeah, he didn't really. And then I found an integrative doctor, and he had a lot of experience with it, and he tried everything that he could try with me, and he moved my baseline up from maybe 5% of functioning to 10 or 15% of functioning, depending on the day. 15's up, maybe from 5% of functioning to 10% of functioning. It's hard to quantify, but he definitely bumped me up. He did a lot with my adrenal system, so I took a lot of herbs to boost my adrenal system, and that definitely helped. Yeah, it made a little difference. So I could sort of, I guess, and then I ended up going also on Armour Thyroid because that was the only medication that helped. I tried lots of different medications that often help people with chronic fatigue, and all of them either did nothing or made me really sick or gave me hives or just, made me worse. All the things that were supposed to bring my cortisol level up, all the steroid stuff made me both completely crazy and gave me brain fog and just made me really ill. So the steroid medication mixed with all the ginseng and licorice and all those things brought my baseline up enough that I had sort of I had less intense crashes. I could sort of consistently expect that I could drive my son to school.
And lie on the couch.
And lie on the couch and make dinner.
Okay, so you managed to make some food. That's great.
And maybe do laundry. On a good day I do laundry or do some small household tasks. Maybe do a little work and put her in the garden. I couldn't dig in. My husband did all the heavy work, but I could do a little work every day. So I'd get I had my maybe hour to 2 hours of potential output for a day. I thought that was pretty good, actually.
Yeah, well, it's funny. We change our how the goalposts change after lying on the couch long enough. Something that would have probably made you feel absolutely dismayed in the beginning and suddenly seemed pretty good.
Hey, look at it! I did so much today.
Oh, I left the house.
Yeah, I went, and I started to be able to go to. I didn't do the grocery shopping, but occasionally I would. I started using the rider carts. So they have those electric carts where you sit and you ride around. So I would occasionally do some shopping with that, but I didn't do the big shopping generally. But I could go to the corner store and get a few things, and that was really nice.
Had you been working when this started?
I was working.
Yeah, you mentioned.
Right before that day, there was just one day where my breath got so bad I didn't go into work, and I never went back to work after that. That was I left work on a Thursday, all my stuff, and thought I was coming back on Monday. I worked Monday through Thursday, and I never went back. That was it.
So, when we're talking about how you're feeling sort of kind of a little bit better to manage some kind of activities of living, and even though you're obviously not able to actually engage in life, and what sort of percentage functioning are you at this stage?
Oh, I'm 100%.
No, I mean at the stage we were talking about.
Oh, that's it. I don't know, on a good day, maybe 15.
Okay, all right. So
But 15 of certain things, but like as far as being able to go for a walk or something, I couldn't do that at all. I couldn't doing anything physical, moving around. Even just like if I was doing some things in the yard and I started walking back and forth across the yard to do some things, even light yard work, the walking I couldn't manage that, walking around.
so how long ago? How long into your illness was this?
That was, I guess, after the first year was when I got this. I also went to a good therapist because a lot of my feelings about being sick would make me push I was really confused and part of me didn't really believe I was sick. So as soon as I felt good, if I felt good for 5 minutes, I would start moving around and doing things like I was well, and then I'd get really, really sick. Whenever I had a good day, I would overdo it, and then I would be worse. So the therapy helped me really accept that I was sick and not like if I got mad, I would like be really physical, and then I'd make myself really sick. So I was so angry about being sick. So the therapy really helped me and I was depressed, so that didn't help my physical state. After about 6 months, I got depressed. I think like clinically depressed. So it helped with all of that, but I only did therapy for about a year, and then I didn't have that much energy, and that would be like, a big day for me to go to therapy, and that would blow the whole day. So I did about maybe just under a year of therapy. It really helped, though. I admit, to be honest.
Yeah, and look, it really makes sense. I mean, obviously, what a shocking thing to suddenly lose your whole life, not being able to work, not being able to do virtually anything, and I mean, how depressing. And then many people don't believe you, and there doesn't seem to be any prospect of getting better. I mean, people just, I think many people, not just in the community, but actually people with CFS, don't recognize, what a terrible experience is. Even though they're experiencing it, they don't recognize it in the sense that they acknowledge what a rough thing they're going through and to go and seek help. And to get some therapy and to talk to people about it. I mean, they know how bad it is. They're often telling everyone how bad it is that they're feeling, but we're not doing enough about it. And I think that's a mistake many of us make. So I guess, you were lucky enough to have a husband who knows about these things to nudge you along.
Me too, though, because I'm a therapist too, so
Absolutely.
I know.
But did you go that on your own back, or did you need that nudge?
No, I did it on my own back. Because I know the signs of depression, so I was like, I'm having depression and I need to do something about it. Because clinical depression is not a joke. I mean, it's really serious. So when I could see the signs of the big sign of a clinical depression is when you cannot experience any joy or pleasure. You're sitting there in a joyful scene with my husband and my son, and they're raking leaves, and we're sitting around, we're having a lovely time, and I just feel like I'm going to cry, and all I can do is just try not to cry. Then you know that you're in trouble, because when you can't experience happiness, and things that were happy would make you feel worse because you feel like you're supposed to be happy and you're just trying to hold it together. So that's when you need to get help, definitely, at that stage, because that cannot be good for your health. Depression is terrible for physical health.
And I always, in some ways, when I talk to people about the recoveries, I actually talk about, I think this is perhaps the most important thing. And people sort of sometimes get confused when I say that, because they go, well, you call these strategies and we're trying to get well, and, why would this be the most important thing? Well, if you haven't got this together, you can't do anything. And,
No.
And if you haven't got this together, I mean, nothing else almost matters. I mean, it doesn't really matter, if you feel like you can't enjoy your life, then why do you need your life to be better?
Yeah. And after I went to therapy and after I reconciled myself and I sort of made my life, I had a lot of grief about what I had lost, but I was able to have a happy life. I had a lot of grief. Certain things would make me feel would make me so sad, but I had a happy life and I was really thankful. I would say I have a really good life if this is what I've got. And also, I was 38 when I got sick, so I'd had all those adventures. It had a life already. So it wasn't like I was I was missing out, but it wasn't like I never got a life. Like some people who get it when they're young, I don't know how they cope, feeling like they're never gonna experience anything.
So I guess that was your outlook at this stage.
Yeah, I felt like I had a great life, and my life now is still great, even though I can't. What really killed me was like when my stepfather was getting sick with Alzheimer's, or different things in the family. I couldn't help. My sister-in-law had the baby. I couldn't help anybody. Like I couldn't contribute really. I could just barely just contributing to my family as much as I was able was my max, and I had nothing. I didn't feel like I could really be a part of things and really step up, and that's really important to me. So that was really difficult. But otherwise, I felt good about my life. I did.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And but your outlook was basically you didn't think you'd get better.
No, because I tried. We ran through all the the herbal and medical interventions, and I feel like my doctor seemed really knowledgeable. I think he is, and we tried. I have a list here. I tried 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different medical drugs. Those were all the ones that make sense for chronic fatigue, and none of them helped me a bit except the thyroid, and that was just a eensy bit. Yeah, I kind of given up, and I tried acupuncture. It made me sicker. They said like staged exercise. That was the biggest mistake I ever made. That made me incredibly ill.
Yeah. So graded exercise therapy, you mean? Like?
Yeah, I tried doing graded exercise. That didn't help. I tried doing physical therapy, and the physical therapist would give me exercises, and I couldn't do them. Like 2 weeks, I was supposed to do these things with my arms, and I was like, I can't do this. My husband wanted me to try Qigong. I'm like, I can't. I couldn't do it. It was too exhausting.
Must be pretty difficult as a mom too.
It was really difficult. So every summer I would wave goodbye when my son and my husband went off on their summer vacation, and really sad. It was really sad. In the weekends, my husband would take my son out, and they'd go to the fair and go to the museum and do all those things, and I would always stay home. Sometimes I'd go to a movie with them, but actually going to the movies was, I think because of my sensory stuff, was so exhausting, so I would do it. I think I remember you talking about this too, like, if I did do something, like I went to the fair one year in a wheelchair, but if I did do something, I would it would be fun, but it was also so difficult that I was more doing it for other people than I was doing it for me. So it's really hard to not be part of his life like that. Although I think in a way, there's a way that I was more available to him. So emotionally, we know each other really well. We stayed really close. Our connection was really good because I was always there. Like whenever he wanted to talk to me, I was there on the couch. I was never too busy. Now I'm busy. Now I'm like, I'm busy, Isaac. I can't talk to you right now. Tell me later. But I was like always there. So we were, always time, and I didn't. All I had was time to sit and chat. So I was busy.
and you were good at listening because talking was hard. So. Okay, it's great.
But one more thing, but sometimes I would just lose it, and I would say, I don't know, with the sensory overload and feeling the fatigue and the flu symptoms, sometimes I'd be like, I just needed like half an hour with nothing coming in. Like I just need to be quiet. I need to be like in a cocoon. And sometimes he couldn't let me have that. I was alone with him a lot. And I would just lose it. I'd just like melt down. Like I have to be alone right now. Like I couldn't cope. Like literally, that was really hard, and I'd feel really guilty because I'd be like, I can't cope. You have to go right now.
Yeah, no,
be away from.
I totally relate to that myself as well. I remember it was unbearable to have somebody in the room. To get them talking, just to be in the room, and the potential of them talking was too much.
Yeah, because they might interact with you.
They might say something to you. I couldn't handle it. Yeah, so hard for a healthy person to imagine.
Your children. it's so hard when it's your children because you feel like you're pushing them away and they don't really understand.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
So that's when I really felt like a bad parent.
Yes. Yeah.
I couldn't interact with him.
Couldn't respond. Mm.
Yeah.
So this is obviously we're a few years in. How many years was it that you were sick for until you actually enrolled in ANS Rewire?
So I got really sick. Like I first got sick in January of 2012, and then I was really sick. I mean December. By the end of January, I was incapacitated. And so it was 4 years later in March. So 4 years, like 3 months.
Okay.
That I started.
And so in those 4 years, did anything sort of change? I mean, or did it sort of stay sort of stable?
I got to between the licorice and the ginseng and all those things for my adrenals, and then once I started the thyroid, it kept me from having like I didn't have so many really. Before that, I started on that, which I think was actually like 3 years in. I would have like whole weeks where I just couldn't even get up off the couch, couldn't cook, and that kind of stabilized. I kind of could depend on my hour or two of activity a day.
Yeah, because I guess you also learn to manage yourself and manage your activity better, yes?
So then, but then nothing changed. I was very, very stable. I guess migraines might have been getting worse. The migraines were really problematic because then you're really non-functional. But no, I was just in this kind of stasis. And I figured that's how it's going to be for the rest. Yeah.
And, I mean, what was your son saying to you? I guess that became his normal.
We had always told him that I was going to get better. I don't remember how that came about. I think in the beginning, I told him I was going to get better. And he really stuck by that. So we always talk about what we were going to do when I got better. And he'd be like, Mom, how long till you think you're going to get better? And I would say, well, a lot of people get better after 5 years. Like there's all these markers. There's these markers for chronic fatigue. Like a certain number of people get better after 5 years. So I was kind of waiting it out. I thought maybe I'd have a spontaneous remission. So I said, well, maybe another year. And he really believed it. We would talk about what we were going to do when I got better. But I didn't believe I was going to get better. I was just humoring him, really.
That must have been heartbreaking to have that conversation with your son.
But he was really understanding. He's a really sweet kid. He's very understanding. And he would get so excited if I could come to something. He'd be like, "You're coming, Mom, you're coming!" And he just accepted things. And my husband's a wonderful father, so he gave Isaac a lot of attention and energy. And it exhausted him because he works a really long week. He's working 2 jobs. And then he'd come home, and in the weekend he would have to be like on for my son. Energy to take him on trips, and it was hard.
We'll just about talk about your turning point in a moment. But before I do, I want to ask, when you reflect now on the time leading up to your illness, because you said it kind of came on gradually with the breathing, and there wasn't, you're happy, there were no sort of issues. Did anything happen in the 18 months leading up to the illness of note?
I think when I look back, one thing is that they found that I had the Coxsackie virus, which is a virus that is implicated in chronic fatigue. In fact, there was a big plus in Coxsackie. I think it was in Coxsackie, New York, but maybe I'm wrong. But anyway, there was a big Coxsackie chronic fatigue cluster, especially and it was a bunch of them were children, somewhere in New England or New York, I can't remember where. So that was one thing.
So you actually had that virus?
I never knew I had the virus, but when they were trying to figure out what was wrong with me, somebody tested me for it and said, "Oh, you have Coxsackie virus. Like that's probably what's." And then we thought that was why I was sick, and I thought I'd get better, and then I didn't. So, but that also causes myocarditis, so that was part of that whole maybe of myocarditis from the Coxsackie. And then the other thing, I guess, I had a very sustainable lifestyle. My son was in preschool. I worked part-time. I had a lot of time home with my son. Had a lot of time to relax and do things that I enjoy. So I had a very happy, sustainable lifestyle. I was waiting to go back to work more until my son was in kindergarten. I guess I'd been sleep deprived. He wasn't a good sleeper, and he was 5, and he still would wake up at night often. So I think I was still a bit sleep deprived, having a 5-year-old, and He was just 5 when I got sick. And then the other thing was I was really, I think my building might have been a sick building. A lot of people had weird illnesses, and they didn't have good ventilation. I never felt good when I went to work. And I also I wasn't enjoying my job. It was like my job was very made me feel exhausted. I didn't like being there. I was doing it because I loved my clients very much. In case anybody's seen, I loved working with my clients, but it was the setup of the job was there was a lot of stagnant time. Also, you're in a windowless office, and you didn't really get to interact with people unless a client came, and if nobody showed up, you kind of sit there twiddling your thumbs for an hour, and I found it very kind of exhausting in that. Not the work with the clients, that was the part that was energizing, but the rest of the atmosphere and the whole setup, the structure of the job was very exhausting in the physical space with no light. And so those were the things that I think contributed to it.
Okay, so but yeah, I mean nothing severe or notable happened. So I mean that makes it all the more confusing when these symptoms come on, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I didn't have a big
If you have
illness.
like a car accident or have a severe flu or something like this, then you sort of go, okay.
And I've heard that subtle beginning is unusual.
Yeah, it happens. It happens quite a bit. And okay, so now
although I did find out that the Coxsackie virus can cause that kind of chest pain, dyspnea, that whole syndrome might have been the Coxsackie virus, so that would make sense.
Did all those symptoms persist during those 4 years?
The chest stuff it got better. In the beginning it was terrible and it was all the time and I couldn't talk on the phone without losing my breath, and then later it was one of those things that would come and go. It would pop up and go away. The chest pain would pop up and go away.
Okay, so at the 4-year point, basically you've still got all the symptoms that you had throughout the illness. Okay. Yeah. So then you get you come across some email, and you hear one of these sort of programs where someone suggests that there might be a way out of the illness. What are you thinking here?
Well,
you've been to all the doctors, I mean, why are you looking at emails?
I think I got the email because I had joined some CFS group, which I started doing at I think the last 2 years, which I found really helpful. To be on email groups or internet groups, and then I would try a medication, and it was really it was hard because I'd try something and I'd get my hopes up, even though I'd be like, don't get your hopes up, and then I'd get my hopes up, and then it wouldn't work. It would make me sick. It would make me worse. I'd have to recover. So I had gone for maybe even 6 months without trying anything. I'm not sure exactly. I think it was 6 months since I last tried anything to help me, and so I was kind of feeling like it was time. My husband said, refused to let me give up. He'd always said that he believed that I was going to get better. He just always persisted in that I was going to get better. And when I didn't believe that, he really held on to that for me, you will get better. So it was time to try something when the email came. And I guess I thought, why not? I had seen some of your videos and check some stuff out. I thought I also got a little put off. I thought it was mind over matter, so I got a little bit annoyed, honestly, because I didn't watch the whole thing because I was so exhausted. I didn't. So I thought oh, he's saying it's just mind over matter. I'm gonna ignore him. But so I saw that there was a course, and I thought, I knew that there were protocols for getting better, but they were in books, and I couldn't the effort of trying to create a program and do a protocol and kind of invent that for myself, I just hadn't felt up to it. So I thought, well, if somebody's gonna set this all out for me, I'll try it. What have I got to lose? It was set up as a video course that it felt easy. I didn't have to, because what was so upsetting and difficult about chronic fatigue was feeling like I was gonna have to figure out how to get better myself. And that was completely overwhelming. I didn't feel like I had the energy for that. And also to, take care of people and do what I needed to do. So I guess that was the appeal, was oh, somebody's going to do it for me.
It'll be easy.
They're going to tell me what to do, and I'll just do it. It's easy.
And was it easy?
Actually, it was.
Okay,
Sorry, it was.
I expected you not to say that, so that's interesting.
It was easy. It's easy. I'm a very structured person. I'm a detailed oriented person. I like things that are sort of set out in a way, and you follow the steps. Like I enjoy that. So actually, yeah, I found it. I mean, parts of it. Meditating is hard. Meditating is always hard. But yeah, I did find it easy. The thing that makes it easy that I always tell people about when I'm telling them about it is that you don't do it all at once. Like it's very gradual. Like you do one part and you get used to doing that, and then you add something, so you're not overwhelmed. And I loved watching the videos every day. I looked forward to it every day. I looked forward to watch my video. Like it was, yeah, I found it quite fun. I find weird things fun. I'm the kind of person who found balancing their checkbook fun when people still balance their checkbook. I don't think people do that anymore, but I was like, I like those kind of.
Maybe you should have been an accountant.
I know, I should have.
So, okay, well, I mean, that's great. And, I mean, but now we're talking about building up and doing all the strategies. And obviously, you pretty quickly got over, you recognized that it wasn't mind over matter because, did that come through for you very early in the program or did you?
I think on the introductory videos.
Yeah, so you listened to those again, sort of thing.
Yeah, I watched the introductory videos and then I decided I was going to do it. And I was really excited about it. Part of me was excited about it, but part of me didn't believe I would get better. This is going to get my hopes. But part of me was really excited. Yeah, and it was pretty clear from those introductory videos that it wasn't about, like, attitude or something.
Okay, fair enough. And then, you know, we're talking about adding all these strategies and you know, of course, you said you liked it because it was over time. It wasn't like immediately you have to do all this stuff because, you know, most of us can't do anything, let alone all this extra new stuff to get better. But I mean, how did that work? I mean, you know, I guess one of the questions I get all the time from mums is, how am I supposed to do all this? You know, I'm struggling to look after my child. I'm struggling to do the housework. Now I'm supposed to make this my number one priority. You know, I don't live in some sort of utopia.
Yeah. Well, it's not all that time consuming. Honestly. Like the time commitment, the only time commitment was really the meditation, the video, and in the beginning the exercise was so brief. I'll talk about that later. But in the exercise, that's like 5-10 minutes, and the meditation is like 20 minutes in the video. So it was only like an hour and a half a day max, I would say, if it was a long video. So the time commitment and also the energy, you know, meditation it doesn't take energy. Didn't take energy for me. I guess the nap also was a time commitment for me, the rest. So that maybe 2.5 hours. My son was in school, so I just did everything when he was at school, and I would do the video in the morning when I had a little energy. But if you could get 2.5 hours a day where you weren't watching a toddler, like I could do most of it with my son around because he was 9. But even if the toddler, if your toddler was in preschool or something, for just a few hours a day, you would have time to do it. It wasn't, because most of the stuff is actually restful and relaxing. The only thing that takes energy is a small bit of exercise, and you're meant not to overexert. So that's going to be very short. It shouldn't be tiring. If it's tiring, you're doing it wrong. So yeah, it wasn't tiring. I feel like the diet kicked in pretty quick to help me have more energy too. So like, as you're doing it, you're getting more energy, so you have more energy. So yeah, I didn't find it all problematic. I was worried about it being problematic with having my kid, but it didn't. It was fine. I just did it while he was at school.
Okay, great.
It didn't wear me
out. So I think that's a really interesting approach, you know, when people feel like, oh, I have to do all this and I have to do all this. And I actually speak to people about this, so it's really interesting to hear that coming from you today, is that the strategies are not an extra job. The strategies are there as a relief. So when we talk about like the rewire process, oh, now I have to rewire. No. Now you get to not have to do the other stuff.
Yes. Yeah, so
it's the burden away. It doesn't add to
it. With the whole thing with the posture, how you have like your posture when you're. I remember the first time I was doing it, and I was at the fridge, and I was like, oh, getting something out of the fridge, and then when I changed, I felt better. So yeah. So instantly, I was actually feeling better when I was doing
Was
things
that
around the
bizarre to
house.
you? Was that surprising?
It was and it wasn't, I guess. Yeah, it was, but in a way, it made sense that I had become so defended.
So,
Um,
yours was, I suppose, a quick recovery, I would say. I think many people take longer, and I think it's important for all people not to have too strong an expectation. Just when we have a positive expectation, we want to do what we can to move forward. Um, but sometimes time frames can be unhelpful because if we don't meet them, we think something is wrong or this kind of thing. But yours was very rapid. Did you sort of find that it was quite linear? Did you find that after 2 weeks, after 4 weeks, that you kept improving? Or tell us a bit about your experience.
Gosh, it's so hard to remember, honestly. I think it was pretty linear. I don't think there was a lot of, I think I shouldn't have gone off all the foods right at once. I was careful about the caffeine. I took like a week to go off caffeine, but I went off all the other sugars and alcohol and everything and changed my diet overnight. And so I had cluster headaches in the beginning. 'Cause I already had migraines, and then I had my first cluster headaches because I think the detox from going off all that stuff and just changing my diet so radically was probably not the best approach. I would give people the advice to like take out like one simple carbohydrate and like a few days later take out another one, and then like a week later take out alcohol or caffeine and just do it in a more thoughtful way. Especially if you have headaches, I would say. I'm not sure it would hit everybody like that, but it was a big problem. So in the so actually, I was fighting through these cluster headaches for the first several weeks, and then when the headaches went away, I realized I was feeling quite a bit better after the first month, because I think the cluster headaches lasted about a month. Um, then I was feeling quite a bit better, and then it was just this very gradual improvement. When I started napping, I noticed a big improvement. The rest that you have people do, I would actually fall asleep, and I was almost every time. And I started to notice that my afternoons were just improving really, really quickly. Whereas before, if I took a nap in the afternoon, I would then be a groggy mess. You have to do, if you're not doing if you're not doing everything at once, then that was my experience. Things don't help. Like I tried meditation, it didn't do anything. So doing everything at once. But so yeah, it was rapid, and it was pretty straight up. I didn't have any backslides. I kept waiting for them, and I never had a backslide at
So
all.
obviously in the beginning, I mean,
My symptoms kept coming and going like they always did, but that just gradually they tapered off.
yes. Well, obviously in the beginning you didn't believe it would work because you've tried everything else and it never works, right?
But part of me sort of believed everything would work because I'm an optimistic person. So I didn't believe it would work, and another part of me, every time I tried a new medication or something, also believed it would work.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah,
it was both.
yeah. So, but I guess did you find that your belief changed as you progressed in the program?
Yes, very much. So.
Was that very quickly,
Yeah, I
sort of
went
after
kind of.
a couple of weeks, or?
I can't remember, but it happened so fast. I mean, because I started the program in March, and um, by August, I was going on a week vacation that required like a 5 hour car trip. And so it was, what is that? It was only like 5 months, and I was pretty much completely better. So I don't know if I can't remember. I can't really wrap my head around it, honestly. I was just going with
Yes.
it.
And what was your husband and your son saying?
They were really excited once because it was pretty clear. I would say once the headaches, after a month, it was pretty clear that something was happening. In the beginning, it was like, oh, I'm a little better. They were very excited. My husband was then my husband took the turn of being more nervous and saying, I don't know if you should. I don't know. Do you really think you should go on vacation? Do you really think you should do this or that? Do you really think you should go to this party? Do you really, he started worrying that about me overdoing it. He got nervous.
Because every time you did in the past, obviously you had very severe backlashes during those 4 years.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you remember the first time you actually went out and did something that, when you virtually never had?
I don't. The first time I went to Whole Foods, the way they have the store set up, you have to walk. I want to say it's probably almost a quarter mile to walk from the entrance to the, if you go through the aisles. By the time you get there, it's long. It was always daunting. That was one of the stores where if I went and to get something there and the rider cart wasn't available, I'd drive away. I couldn't. If I couldn't go on the sitting cart. I remember going to the grocery store for the first time and getting to the checkout and feeling fine. I just felt fine. I was totally normal. Where in the past, when I first got sick, I had tried to do the shopping a couple of times, and I would be so sick by the time I got to the checkout that I couldn't figure out how to use the credit card machine anymore because my cognitive impairment was so bad that I couldn't figure out how to pay. So that was really exciting. But the vacation was the big. Going on that vacation was really. Oh, and this is a little sad, but in July, my son came down with this severe fever and was extremely ill and had to go to the emergency room a couple of times. And then we were going to all these specialist appointments. I was doing all of it. And the first time we had to take him to the emergency room, my husband said, "Do you think you ought to go?" He was worried about me because hospitals are so exhausting. I said, "I can do it." And I did it, and I was fine. And the next day, I was fine. And I think that was the big moment, actually, when I took him to the ER. And, it was this long and drawn out. And the next day, I was fine. I was still okay after that. And then I was able to take care of him and do all his medical stuff and nurse him when he'd stay up late with him when he couldn't sleep because he was in pain. And I was fine. And then we went on this vacation for a week with a long car trip and going to the beach. And I was the one doing all the cooking for everyone, and I was fine. And we got home, and I was actually more energetic than anybody else because I was living this pure, healthy lifestyle with all this healthy food and no caffeine, no alcohol. I had more stamina than anyone, actually.
Well,
back to that.
You started exercising quite obviously within the framework that is presented, but I mean, once 4 months, into it, when you had, or 5 months when you had recovered, I mean, what kind of exercise were you doing?
Well, there's so just a little under a mile from our house, there's a mountain, and it's about a mile up and down. Well, a mile up and a mile down. And I started hiking that every day. So I'd walk to the mountain. Well, first I would drive to the mountain and walk like part way up and then come down. But after about a week, I was hiking the mountain, and then I started walking to the mountain and hiking the mountain. Then I wanted to run to the mountain and hike the mountain, but actually my knees didn't agree with that, so I stuck with the hiking. So yeah, mostly I started doing yoga like almost every day.
Okay.
Pretty intense yoga.
And then you did you do a lot of other activities besides the hiking up the mountain, the daily hiking? Did you do lots of things on the weekends and things like this?
The thing is, then my son was sick, so. So I was really taking care of him because he couldn't do anything then. So it went from me being stuck at home to him being stuck at home. He didn't go to school or anything. He was really ill. So, but he's better now for anybody watching. He's well now. All that ends well. And it had nothing to do with my chronic fatigue. Although I was afraid I'd made him sick somehow. It had nothing to do with that. It was a totally separate issue. But yeah, so we were pretty much home, but I fired the cleaner. I had somebody coming in every 2 weeks to do the heavy cleaning because I could not push a vacuum. That was one of the things. I couldn't vacuum.
Yes.
It was impossible.
This is whilst you were sick, you mean?
Yeah, while I was sick, I couldn't vacuum. It was just the thing I could do. And so my husband was taking care of our son, trying to give him some fun on the weekends, working really hard, so we had a cleaner. And I fired the cleaner. That was a big one. So I didn't need them anymore. I was like, I don't need somebody to do this for me anymore. I could do this.
Fantastic. So tell us, since you've recovered, what have been some of the great experiences? I mean, you mentioned you went on a long drive and a holiday. Are there any sort of other particular experience? I mean, obviously looking after your son whilst he was ill
That was probably the biggest thing for me because I don't know what I would have done. Because I just wouldn't have had the energy that he needed. Yeah. He needed me to have so much energy for him and just be completely available. Not to mention all the doctor's appointments and the phone calls and the school and all that stuff. And so being able to be there for him when he was sick, that was amazing. And also I started to be able to help take care of my stepfather with Alzheimer's, and also I took on a lot of projects for my family. My mom, to not have her be overwhelmed, I took over managing the estate when her last relative passed away, and I'm still dealing with that actually, and helping her sell a property, and like really able to like step up and do those things that I had really been sad about not being able to do before. And exercise, I mean, I love, now I go and I'm running now, my knee's better, so I run, and I'm, I love that I can just start going in the morning, and if I want, I can just keep going all day, and I think that's like more than like some big peak experience. It's like I get up in the morning and I could go for a run, then I could clean the house, then I could go to the store, and then if I want to do something else after that, I could do something else, and if I want to go to a movie after that, I can do it. Whatever.
Isn't it amazing?
I can do it all.
It's interesting. I always ask if there's any sort of particular experiences like going on a holiday or this or that. But I mean, for most of us, I think it's the everyday experience has more amazement and joy out of it than any sort of fancy thing,
Oh, and having friends again too. I was starting to make new friends because I couldn't it's impossible to make friends when they have to come talk to you on your couch, but only at certain times of day.
Yeah, that's right. You don't want them to be in the room. That really makes it harder.
Yeah, I got a social life again, and
fantastic.
Yeah, it's thing. And my son is just well, so now we've started doing things as a family. We've had 3 big vacations together, and we drove all the way to Florida. Late nights. We drove to Florida and spent a week in Florida, and that was really wonderful.
Wow! And that's what were your other vacations?
We had a vacation at a lake house in Spofford, New Hampshire, and then we had our at the Jersey Shore another week there. So it's been a lot of beach time. I love it. Yeah.
Did you have to pinch yourself when you were standing on the beach with your, running around with your family? I mean, was that surreal?
The first time all 3 of us were doing it and we were all well, I just was I was so happy. And then when Isaac was better, and it was the first time since he was better, then I was beside myself again because when I was sick, I always just used to say to myself, well, at least it's not him. Like, it would be so much worse if it was him. I'm glad he's not sick. And so when he got sick, I thought, well, this really is the worst thing that can happen. I watched of what had happened to me happen to him, and also not believing him and saying he should be at school. And I could see it was very clear that he couldn't cope with being at school, that he was too ill to be at school. So to see him get well, it was probably more emotional for me than my own recovery, I have to say.
And just for anyone listening, your son's experience and illness was completely unrelated to CFS and what you had, so that people don't get some sort of misconceptions there. So, and he's good now, which is great to see.
Yeah, and in fact, he just had his first day of school, and he's loved it, and I think I said that, and it was great, and he came back full of energy, so.
Yeah.
It's quite a surreal experience. I think what makes it so amazing is that I think when we're really sick for a long time, and severely sick, like housebound and this kind of thing, then we almost shut off the whole possibility of ever doing anything like that moment at the beach, don't we? And I know that for myself, when you then experience it, it's kind of surreal, because when you truly in your mind have shut off the possibility of doing it, and then it happens, it doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel. I don't know. It's the weirdest thing I've ever experienced myself.
Yes. Yeah. You have to shut it off because otherwise you're just in mourning all the time. And I couldn't deal with grief. If I even had if I did something that reminded me of how I used to be, I would just be too sad. It just make me sad.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's how we often withdraw from life completely. And I've seen this with a lot of people, because the whole idea of it's like we don't need a reminder of what we're missing out on. And I think when we're
Yeah,
sick, we end up
exactly.
living this super sheltered life, and it's not just about because we're so sick, but it's almost because you don't want to have dreams. You don't want to say, oh yeah, when I get well, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, because you don't really think it's going to happen, and so having those kind of goals seem overly lofty, and they just tend to be upsetting. But having said all of
Yeah.
that, I do find that these are often great driving forces for us to keep going. And I mean, did you find that during your recovery that when you started, I mean, did you have dreams and aspirations and things, or had you just sort of compartmentalized those and put them away?
Oh yeah, I'd really put them away. I really numbed out a lot. I'm a very good number. So I would just try to numb out until I would turn myself. Then I'd like turn myself back on. I was like a robot. Turn myself off, numb out, be be static, then turn myself off, on for my family. Yeah.
But I guess the thing is,
I had put everything. I didn't think I was going to do anything more in my life than what I was doing, and I put that away. And now I don't know and now I have to decide what I want to be when I grow up. So starting all over again. Like, who gets a new start like this? I have to really think about what I want to do with myself.
well, because actually, you weren't a runner before, were you?
No. I wasn't really. I mean, I'd always been a physical person, but I wasn't particularly athletic, and I certainly didn't get enough exercise.
So isn't it interesting how before you never done
Yeah.
something like that, and now you're like a runner? It's like it must be kind
When
of
you don't
weird.
get to use your body, I'm a very physical person. I've always been very much in my body, physical person. And when you don't get to use your body for so long, and then you can use it again, it's very exciting. So you like want to see what you can do. Now, of course, I'm almost 45. So, well, I guess I'm only 44 and a half. But so I find that like I can't quite build up to things the way I used to.
No.
Maybe mile and a half is probably all I'm going to be able to run. Like, I'm not a kid anymore. But I was just thinking that the other day, like, maybe my expectations of how much stamina and physical strength I could build might not be in line with my age anymore. But I want to see what I can do. It was Rip Van Winkle. I felt like Rip Van Winkle because I was 38 when I got sick. And I woke up and I was in my 40s.
Yeah.
I was like,
What happened?
I'm in this different body. I'm this, I'm not the person, I'm not the same.
Well, it's true because obviously there's often a shift in our 40s. It's not something we like to think about, but there is a bit of a change in how we feel.
Yeah, those years were a big shift for me.
Absolutely. Well, for you, it was bigger than most. But I mean, I often see people when they recover too. They often have no frame of reference for what they should be or able to do or what's normal, because I see people sometimes they've been sick 10 years or whatever, but then you see some people who just completely throw that out the window, and I've seen obviously some people who've been sick for like 30 years and they're in their 70s and they start running too. I don't know what it is about my program. People start running when they finish. I'm not even a runner. I never said anyone should run. You guys are not listening.
I know you're kind of anti-running, I think, actually. You're like,
I'm kind of anti-running.
just walk.
Is this your little rebellion by the people who are coming in the program? We all become runners. We show Dan.
It's being able to get, the worst thing about one of the terrible things about chronic fatigue was that when you're a normal person, if you're feeling a bit sluggish, you're not feeling great, you get up and do something. You feel better. You exercise, you have more energy. If you're feeling sluggish sitting on the couch, go get up and do some chores and you feel perkier. And with chronic fatigue, it was the opposite. I felt sluggish and I got up and did something or exercised, God forbid, I would feel worse, and maybe even for a long time. So I think that's why people run, is because running gives you energy. Like, if I run for 15 minutes, I have energy for the rest of the day. So it's like this huge benefit. Like, you run and then you just have all this energy, and it's like, wow, it's. I never thought I'd have that again. And when you sit, it's so terrible.
Actually, it's really interesting, Molly. Just as you're saying this, I actually recognized that I actually did the same thing.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny? I actually forgotten, because when I'd never been a runner, and when I recovered, I started running too. And I was running for, I don't know, maybe a year and a half, and I started really running, and almost like just because I could.
Yeah.
just because I could. Yeah, it's funny. I'd actually forgotten about that, because I don't run anymore. I'm not into running, but yeah, I was actually running for the first time in my life, So there we go. All right. Well, look, as we finish up, I guess the last question I have for you is there any sort of things you'd like to? I mean, obviously you know what it's like having, been how did you call it, couch girl, horizontal couch girl,
Yeah, horizontal girl.
horizontal girl. Having been horizontal
my
girl,
superhero name.
you know what it's like to lose the hope and all of that. I mean, is there any other sort of messages you have about recovery or anything else you'd like to say to people listening? Anything we didn't cover, perhaps?
Oh, I think either you or somebody has to believe you're going to get better. You have to keep trying something. You cannot give up. You have to keep trying the next thing. Just try the next thing that you can. And you can't stop trying. You can take a break because trying is emotionally exhausting and physically often exhausting, but you can't give up. You have to try the next thing. And I'm really glad I didn't give up. If I had given up, then I'd still be sick, and who knows, it would have been a train wreck when my son got sick, and life would have been getting a lot worse for me. I would have probably ended up really sick because I couldn't cope with his illness, and it would have been terrible. So when I think about that road of not having tried, that's pretty scary. So I think that's the scariest thing you can do is stop trying and accept. It's a balance. You have to accept your life or you'd be miserable, but you can't give up trying to. You have to do both at the same time, I guess. And I really hope people try the program because I know I got I got better fast, but I was I wasn't the most sick person, but I wasn't the least sick person either. I had a pretty solid case, and if it worked, then I really think it can work. When I talk to people about it in the community, people send people to talk to me about it. I think you just have to really do it, and if you're 100%, I think it's going to work. So.
Well, and I guess that was really one of the things I guess I see when people have faster recovers. I mean, you really went all out, didn't you? Cluster headaches or not, you just did it full on. And I guess, at first that might be a little difficult for people. But then on the other hand, as you start to feel better, it becomes easier to be motivated to do more. And it's about really climbing that ladder, isn't it? At first you can't do anything, but if you do something to help yourself and you feel somewhat better, suddenly you can do more. And I think that's a really important thing for people to keep in mind, is that you don't have to do everything. You just have to do whatever you get you most, they say bang for your buck, but bang for your effort.
Yeah.
And whatever you get the most bang for your effort, that makes you feel a little bit better, and then it allows you to do more. And I think it's about investing wisely. I mean, did you find during your recovery that when you had that extra energy, did you use that for recovery, or did you use it to have fun?
I probably used it to cook or clean the house or do the gardening or re-engage. I used it to go to the store. I used it to go back to my normal life, honestly. So with some having fun, but I wasn't trying to party in the beginning. I was very cautious I was treated myself like I was made out of like I was a China doll. Until I was really better, I was very careful. I didn't want to go back.
You didn't want to have one of those setbacks, yeah. You didn't want to overdo it.
I started to feel better. I was so cautious with myself.
And I think
I was now.
I think for people, sorry, we have a bit of a delay. I keep cutting you off. Sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It was so long before I was willing to give up the rest. I was afraid to give up resting. That was the last thing. I was afraid to change because I didn't want to, I felt like I needed, and I was in bed at 9:30 every night.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing, when we have these strategies that support us and help us to recover, and then to let go of those strategies, because if you're fully well, you don't need all that stuff, right? You can live like a normal person. So, but to let go of that can be a bit of a journey too, can't it?
Oh, I used a lot of my extra energy for exercise too. I really channeled it into exercise. I was exercising a lot in the beginning, actually, which is probably why I hurt my knee, because my body, I had no muscle mass, so I was rebuilding, and when you're rebuilding, everything can be a little off. So I didn't hurt too severely, but it did start to act up. But yeah, I channeled a lot of my extra energy into exercise because it was so fun, and also I got so much of a payoff. It seemed to be making me better. So
I mean, this must. I know we kind of finished the interview, but I can't help but ask these questions now. You know, for someone who tried graded exercise therapy, and I mean, you must have felt pretty jaded about the whole idea of exercise, because obviously when you did it, and every time you tried graded exercise therapy, you got so much worse. I mean, did you not have an aversion to doing physical activity?
I did. I was terrified of it. I thought it was a terrible idea. To do exercise, but the way it was laid out, and I actually bought because I have tachycardia, I bought one of those finger meters that would say what my pulse was, and so when I started doing the exercise, I would actually keep checking my pulse to make sure that my heart rate wasn't going too high, or my blood pressure wasn't falling too low. Like I would make sure I was in a good zone, or else I would turn around. So I was very careful, but so in the beginning, I think I was walking down the street three houses back. So I was just very, very. But I bought the whole idea that you can't make yourself tired. Like you don't increase it just to increase it. You increase it if you can. You increase it based on you feel fine. You only increase it as long as you still feel fine, and that's what the graded exercise didn't do. The graded exercise says just keep increasing your activity level and you'll get better. Of course, that means
And stop pretending to be so tired.
Yeah, and then you get to be sick in bed for a month. That's great, which is what happened to me. I ended up like back in bed for a month. But yeah, it was the cautious that made it feel safe actually. And I started doing a bit of yoga with the walking too, and that felt very safe. So no, I wasn't jaded because it was. I knew how to stay in my envelope, so it was focusing on staying in my envelope, and I was super cautious. I mean, literally 3 houses down and back. That was it.
Yeah. Well, we all got to start somewhere. So look, I want to thank you very much for sharing your inspirational story, Molly. I think it's fantastic to hear how you turned your life around and how you and your family found happiness again.
Yeah, and I can't thank you enough, Dan. We're all so grateful to you. The whole family is grateful to you, all of your support. And also your support through Isaac's illness, even though it wasn't related. You were really, it helped a lot to have you.
Well, you're totally welcome, and this is what we do.
We owe you. We owe you a lot.
This is what we do it all for, and I guess, I've talked to people for many years about this whole concept of paid forward. There was a movie called Paid Forward with a really terrible ending, so don't watch it.
I never saw it.
Don't watch it.
Should I not see it?
Only watch the first half of the movie, or about 3/4,
Okay.
and then you have to turn it off, right?
Okay.
But I always say this is why I started the recovery interviews way before I started ANS Rewire. It was just like every story that we hear where somebody recovers can create another one, can start a new journey.
Yeah.
And the more of these we have, it's exponential, yeah. And then sooner or later we're going to get to a part where it's generally accepted that getting this illness doesn't mean it's a life sentence. And that's what.
That would be amazing. Well, I've been proselytizing all over the place. We're always talking about it, and I'm very open about my illness. And then people tell me they know somebody.
I just want to say, just to finish up, thank you very much for sharing your story, Molly. I think it's really, really inspirational, and I'm sure people will appreciate hearing your journey.
Oh, thank you so much, Dan.